Welcome to the Cleaning Up Business podcast. My name's Chris Guilfoyle and I'm going to be your host. In every episode, we're hoping to bring you industry leaders from a wide variety of service sectors, disruptors within their industry, and day-to-day entrepreneurs with some business and life lessons for you guys to take away. Let's jump in to today's episode.
If anyone's starting a business, take that seriously.
We're talking mistakes like that are like 5-figure mistakes.
Yeah, that's probably my biggest skill, is the ability to learn. Best SEOs in the industry, you're looking at 80, 85K plus. I was probably top 4% on earnings. I didn't think I could do wrong.
Yeah.
You get to the point where you think you're untouchable.
Everyone makes mistakes, even I'm not perfect. Do you think business owners overlook SEO?
They definitely do. SEO is not ticking boxes, all sorts of things that I shouldn't be doing, from alcohol abuse to just being really overweight, just to being a prat really. Up until a few years ago, I'd become the person that I didn't really want to be.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cleaning Up Business podcast. My name's Chris Guilfoyle, and again this week I have another fantastic guest, a friend and business associate of mine. I have owner and founder of Digital Scientist based in Portsmouth, James Eaton. He's going to be sitting with us today talking all things cleaning industry. He has a career in the cleaning industry and everything SEO and digital marketing related for your business. So James, thank you for coming down and joining us on the show today. So James, with all our guests, we go all the way back to the start. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your business and career journey up to starting Digital Scientists.
Okay, so when I left, well, I suppose go back to school, I didn't have a particularly amazing education, come from a very poor family, military family. My father was a Marine commando. So money was always a struggle. So from a young age, I always looked at, I suppose you could say, enterprising ways of making money, going out, cleaning cars, penny for the guy. I used to love making a penny for the guy every year.
Out on Halloween and...
Yeah, I used to love doing that. I used to do carol singing. Used to do all sorts of little enterprises, ways of making some money, so I could go to the sweet shop, go and buy some Pokemon cards, give some money back to the mum every now and then. So that was, as well as obviously emptying my dad's pockets when I had the opportunity. Of course, as you do. So that was interesting. Always had a fascination with money, loved playing Monopoly as a child. So when I went to school, got through school, I always had dreams of being someone very high flying, lovely, great big yacht, those sorts of typical dreams that you have.
What didn't you enjoy about school, James? Sorry to jump in there. A lot of guests mentioned obviously about their school years.
Yeah, the struggle for me always was they didn't seem to teach you. So for example, with maths, I failed maths at secondary school. I didn't even try, which is funny now considering what we do. But it was more time spent teaching you the answers for a paper, less time teaching you how you got to that answer. And that's what I always struggled. So when they're writing something up on the board and telling you, this formula equals this, whatever, I just couldn't get my head around it because they didn't really teach you so you understood fully, you could comprehend why that was the case. And I always had so many questions that just went unanswered. That I just lost interest in it really. So when it came to the final sort of year of school, I just started jumping over the fence. We'd go to school, we'd jump over the fence, go over what was Gatcombe Park in Portsmouth, opposite City Boys, and just start avoiding it.
Don't do that, kids.
Don't do that. Don't recommend it. But I did home educate. I went to Smith's. We bought some GCSE books and I homeschooled. So I would go out and I would... Eventually, my mother could see that she was getting too many phone calls and I wasn't going to go to school consistently in the final year. So we started to homeschool and I read from GCSE books and I managed to leave with C's in English, C's in geography, massive failure in maths. And a few other good ones, ironically, again, like a D in IT, which is just laughable considering, again, what I do now. But yeah, that's pretty much where I was. Again, just fascinated with money. I was motivated. I just didn't like the learning experience at the time. And since then, or after school, I went on to work. I picked up a full-time job as soon as I could, working in the Continental Ferry Port in Portsmouth. We were cleaning the cross-channel ships and cruise ships, so Brittany ferries. Okay. And we used to go on the ship at 4 times a day. We'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, get to the ship for 7 o'clock, get on the ship, team of 60 people. We clean the public areas, clean all the cabins, get back home, do a little bit of reading, get back up, go again at lunchtime, go home, go again at tea time, go home, go again at 11 o'clock at night. So it was from early morning to late at night. So it was hard making up money over those sort of shift patterns, shift pattern work. But I was motivated and I wanted to progress, and I could see that this was a big contract, and it was a multi-million pound contract. And the company that did it was a company called GSF Sandy Light, which is a massive French company, one of the biggest French cleaning companies, or biggest cleaning companies in France. So I saw opportunities there, and I basically said to the supervisors, I want to progress. I want to do better. What can I do? I was only 16, 17. And in the cleaning industry, a lot of people turn their nose up to you when you're that age because you're so young. They're just like, well, who's this whippersnapper trying to get opportunities?
I come across that with my journey in the cleaning. And to be honest with you, I mean, you're my sort of age. I'm still relatively young now, and I still face that even today. You know, especially in high pressure situations, you know, where we might be in front of people that are, you know, CEOs of, you know, massive companies, and then I roll in there, you know. So I still get that today, and I recognise that within the industry. Do you think that could be a bit of a turn off for the industry? I
think if you move into the managerial roles, it can become a problem because you lose interest when you're not working at a peer-to-peer level. So you're not working with your clients on an even playing field. Although you do see this in other industries. I see this sometimes in our industry as well now, where it's almost like if you're having your invoice paid, your soul belongs to them and they can treat you whichever which way they want. That's a common problem. I think that's more so an issue in the cleaning industry, and there's a lot of derogatory terms and other issues, which is why actually one of the reasons why I left. But it's certainly challenging if you're in a managerial role in the cleaning industry, doing multi-site management, for example, which most of them are, area management, when you're dealing with challenging customers who are who you're not building a long-term relationship with because you're not seeing them all the time. You're only seeing them when they have an issue and you're firefighting, for example. So you basically become the person that just gets whipped every time you go on site, right? So it's hard to build up those strong, mutually respectable relationships. And it wasn't until I moved on to another large contract, which I'll come on to, that I saw a change in that. But it is a challenge if anyone wants to progress in the cleaning industry. Huge opportunities. Anything I do today, I think anyone else can do. And you can learn a lot working in the cleaning industry. So when I was on the Brittany Ferries, I started by given an opportunity as a trainer. I moved on to being a team leader, which was very challenging because I went from training new staff who were double my age and a lot older than me, to then asking staff to perform certain duties for me at age 17, to then by the age of 18, 19, becoming a contract supervisor. And I'd have the radio, and I was responsible for the public area. So I get on the ship with my big team. We clean all the restaurants and bars, all the washrooms and toilets and all these sorts of areas. And then we go on to the cabins, and we'd be cleaning 400, 500, 600 cabins as a flow clean. So you'd start at one port, that's part of the ship, and just work around all the cabins, right? And from there, GSF lost the contracts. They wanted to retain me or cynically do damage to the new provider. So offered me a job as an area supervisor. So I then went on to managing maritime contracts out of New Haven. So I was working on the roads. I did that for a year and a half. Then I joined a really great family-run company in Brentwood in Essex, which I told you about before, run by Mr. Bob Vincent. And I moved on to high street banks. So Cheltenham, Gloucester, Lloyds, HSBC, HFC Finance. This is probably 2007, 8, 9 time, I think. And I was managing 40, 50, 60 banks, 60 cleaning operatives, lots and lots of staff. Very challenging job, as you know, because when staff are off sick and on holiday.
I'll be honest with you, I actually think, because obviously we've had a relatively similar career, obviously stayed in it and you know, diverted ever so slightly, but I managed the same. And for a large FM company, it was what's called Nominal Business. So basically smaller 1-2 cleaning jobs. And they are definitely harder to manage than your big Canary Wharf tower, where you've got 50 staff concentrated in one tower. Because if 5 people come off, which probably you're going to have, you've still got, you know, the rest of the staff, you've still got 85% of your employment. Your resource team's still there.
You can cover
At a bank, if Mary goes sick, You got zero.
That's what I used to have.
It's tough.
Yeah, back in those days, I was very fit. 3:00 in the morning, up 5 sets of keys to a bank, go out and clean the banks. I'd go down to Brighton. I'd go clean 2 banks in Brighton, go to, you might laugh at me now, is it Lewis? Yeah. I always say that wrong. Then I go to Hassocks and all over the place. So whenever I was authorising holidays, I tried to authorise it in batches in areas so I know I could cover it as well, right? So I did that for a couple of years. Then I went to Royal Mail with the same company, managed Royal Mail distribution centres, delivery offices, post offices. I become at that point a bit of a firefighter. So if the company was suffering with a contract and it was underperforming, they had particular challenges, they'd move me because they knew I was keen. They knew that I was very committed. And if they needed someone to rely on, I'd go in and I'd sort it out. We had issues with staff, they'd be performance managed. By then I had a very thick skin, strong backbone, because you'd had all those years of people telling you to piss off because here are you, young whippersnapper, trying to manage me. You just become stronger as a person, generally having to contend with that.
Yeah.
And then eventually moved on to managing a corporate account, British Gas, Centrica. So that was a very nice role, more onto the bigger sites now. Big multi-sites. I had maybe 10, 11 sites, Windsor, Centrica headquarters, beautiful site. Lovely clients, actually. At this point, I'm building some really good relationships one-to-ones with the customers because you just have the time. You're working with them every day as part of the FM team, right? Yeah. And I had about, about 60 staff, maybe more than that, actually, spread out across the sites. Staines, there was about 30 staff. Windsor, maybe 15 and 20. So that was really good. Did that for a couple of years. Met my current wife who worked for me at Windsor. She hated me, first of all, when I first met her. Didn't like me at all. But she's Polish, so she's very headstrong. So it took me a long time to woo her, actually. But managed to achieve what I wanted to achieve there, and then decided we were travelling up from Portsmouth every day at that point. We lived in Slough for a bit. Then lived in Slough for 6 months because it was close. So I had enough of that, come back to Portsmouth, and then the travel was just too long every day. I just got fed up with being in the car. So I got a job working for Gunwolf Keys, Land Securities in Portsmouth, premium retail outlet shopping sort of centre, very popular. And I managed the soft service team. So I was managing all the cleaning operatives, just sort of day-to-day floor, keeping the centre looking really nice. That was working for a very inspiring individual named Mr. Sean Sweeney, MBE. That was a lot at that time. Had a lot of time on my hands on that site. Had a big team, again, 40-something people. Did a lot of project work, did a lot of award ceremonies, lots of submissions, lots of waste management at that point. So we had to take the centre from something like a 20-30% recycling target to 80%. So we were looking at how could we systemise, improve the processes, recover recyclables like cardboard and plastics, all the valuable commodities that can be baled and sold. We did that over a year and a half, won loads of national awards, National Recycler Awards, got a green apple, went to the Houses of Parliament and picked that up myself with a few of my team and my client. That was amazing. So I really enjoyed that. But at that point, I started to get into a lot of project work. So over the years, working in the cleaning industry, I learned a lot of skills in terms of how to interact with staff, interact with customers, built up my confidence, some more finance side, a lot of business acumen related skills. Yeah. And I was given the freedom to do that. Back in the day when I worked in the industry, I just thought my managers couldn't be asked to manage me. So they just left me to it because they thought I was somewhat capable. But looking back at it, actually now I can see that they were giving me the freedom to learn and to develop. Yeah. And they were doing me a favour.
I agree. I was fortunate, the same as you, would like that. Say it's quite interesting similarities in our story. Being in a global FM business, my manager was in Scotland or Manchester. I'm managing in London. So, and I've been very fortunate, like yourself, the people that, that I worked with and for, they just let me run with it, and of course, if I have my wings clipped a few times, if I made a mistake or cost the business money, which happens, everyone makes mistakes, even I'm not perfect. You may be surprised to know. But yeah, that plays a big part. And I think that plays into how I manage my people now. To be honest, I think I need to get maybe a little bit tighter, but it is good when you work with someone like that and you can learn and develop.
You need to, it's about giving them the freedom to learn from SaaS, because you learn from your mistakes, right? But it's about making sure they get just enough management, they don't make critical errors and make some significant mistakes, and give them the room to improve and give them the opportunities. And I think in the cleaning industry, there's loads of that, absolutely loads of it. And when I left school, I went and did, alongside working at Brittany Ferries, an A-level in business and economics, did accounting, and was like, sod that, it's just, I hate it. Redid my maths GCSE over about a 4 or 5 year period, actually. So it took me a long time to achieve those things. I'd do the first year, give it a rest for a year, because I was just so focused on making money and working. But I picked it up gradually. Then restarted Open University and did 6 months. I was like, I've had enough of the education side now. I'm just going to continue self-teaching like I've always done. And I think that's probably my biggest skill I've learned over the years, actually. It's if I don't know something, go and research and learn it and teach myself. And that's probably my biggest skill, if you like, is the ability to learn. And that's something that's I've had the ability and flexibility to develop over the years in the cleaning industry. Lots of opportunity. And then, moving back to Gunwolf Keys, my old retail director, Nick Jewett, moved to a company called Compact and Bow, and had an opportunity come up for an account manager. Knew that I'd been at Gunwolf Keys for a few years. My son had been born. He was a bit older. I was willing to get back on the road now and have a bit more time away from home. Offered me the account management role, took on all of the company's accounts, and then within sort of 6 months, I was the head of sales and marketing. And then I was leading up the team, taking the team forward, restructuring everything, built a new website, funny enough in Wix at the time, with the time that we had, and then started working on the SEO. And over the years, I've always had fascination with the website, and the SEO site's always been something I've toyed with as a passion, always been sat at the computer for really lengthy hours when I haven't been at work, come home from work, I'm on the computer doing stuff. So again, everything that I've learned over the years has been self-taught, has been from making mistakes, but actually doing it right. So I worked for Compact and Bow for a good few years with £1 million a year sales target, which was a challenge. And the predominant concern for me as the head of sales and marketing was, how are we going to reach our targets without spending so much time going around knocking on doors, which isn't necessarily efficient, right? Going around surveying an estate, constantly trying to, you have to work extremely hard to sell machines to companies that they might not necessarily know that they need the equipment or could benefit from it. So how could we deal with that differently? So then I looked at the whole search engines element.
Was it predominantly at Compact and Bow? Was everything sort of outbound marketing then at that point? Yeah.
So we had a very good sales team. One individual, Dan Windybank in particular, was very good at sales. He spent a lot of his time knocking on doors and opening up opportunities, but it just wasn't scalable. Do you know what I mean? He's one man. What can you do with that?
I think I find that with him, we have that, obviously we're a cleaning/business podcast, so there's a crossover between the two, but sales in any business, when you're in that infancy and it's just one person, you can only be in so many places at one time. I can only be on one client site at that particular time. I can't be in multiple. So just relying solely on outbound marketing is not a good strategy for any business.
No.
Yeah, unless you're a superstar, which there are some. You mentioned that,
but they're hard to find.
Yeah, there are some. I've come across them that they've just got their gold. Everything they touch converts. But again, it's one person. And it's okay if they're converting multi-million-pound accounts or whatever in the cleaning space, or they're selling lots of machinery. But it's not good to just have that one outbound.
Absolutely.
Strategy.
I mean, a lot of salesmen, I think you're on LinkedIn, you'll see the same sort of individuals that I'll see. In regards to some salesmen are just order takers and they wait for the opportunities to come in as opposed to going out and creating opportunities. So you do need salesmen that are very extroverted, very capable, going out, opening up, creating opportunities, looking for opportunities. But equally, if you're already in an established market and there are people looking online for your type of business, then that's where we really started to transform Compact and Bow, and really started to get some volume inquiries to the point where we were getting so many that we just didn't have time to deal with them all. And that was all from just years of toying around with SEO, learning what works, what doesn't work, building them a Wix website, which a lot of SEOs would say would have never worked, but hey ho, they dominated their sector in the waste industry, and they're still number one today. They're still performing really well. They're now one of my customers for my business when I came away. during COVID. And that sort of brings us up to where we are now, really. It's all about, if you want to scale a business, you don't want the feast and famine routine, right? Where one minute you've got too many inquiries and you're having a really good month, and all of a sudden your sales manager or the company owner or whoever else is breathing down your neck because you're having a bad run. Yeah. And you're, even emotionally, that's very draining, right? You've got all these highs and you're doing really well, and all of a sudden, you feel like you're on top of the world and you're a real winner, and the next minute you're performing really badly and you're worried. When I was at Compact and Bow, I was rewarded handsomely. I had a very good package, but a very high salary, right? So when you're having a bad month, then you're suffering because you're a cost, and you're not performing. Sure. So my strategy was to lay all the foundations, so that those leads would consistently come in, those inquiries would come in, and we could, out of 100 leads, convert 20, and get a good number of sales.
I mean, you make a totally valid point there, and again, a takeaway for the audience, hopefully, as an SME. Predominantly our sales at outbound, not inbound, because we'll come on to that with the SEO side of things that we do. But outbound, it's me. So, unfortunately, I don't necessarily answer to anyone, so no one's breathing down my neck, but I feel it in my own pressure, in my own self, that we'll have loads of work coming and you're busy. And then what happens is we get that in the business rather than on it, where I'll get dragged back into it, and, we'll be helping, like, mobilizing a new contract. But what that does, we're up here with the sales process. I step away from it, so it goes down and down and down. You lose that momentum, and the leads don't necessarily come in unless you've got an outbound solution, which we're fortunate we do. But it produces those peaks and troughs. And like you say, it's feast and famine, isn't it? Because you think, I've got loads of work coming in, and then you get busy with it. And then you sit, when that work stops or projects are back to normal, you sit there, oh, damn, the sales pipeline's dry.
Yeah, that's the issue, right?
Yeah, that's what it can be.
Keep feeding it in,
of course,
at the end of the funnel, and nurturing it all the way through. And if you're not constantly feeding in, at some point you're going to dry up, right? And that's the issue.
So you can't rely on one outbound versus inbound, unless you've got a superstar salesman and it's not so much reliant on you, or it's multiple people rather than one person. But most SMEs, as I say, they'll go through that.
They will.
Ups and downs.
And that's what I tend to see. I mean, most of the success really comes from being multi-channel, making sure you're trying to cover all angles, but doing it right. Yeah. And a lot of companies try to start projects and they just don't have either the time or commitment or the money to see it through. Yeah. And they try to start something, it sort of falters and then sort of flatlines, really. So you have to sort of take it piecemeal, if you like, and say to yourself, what are we going to work on the next 6 months? What are we going to achieve this year as well, and just work towards it.
So you've obviously had a varied career through the cleaning industry, and I had the same, and I think that's good because it gives you all aspects of the business. And I say this on our social media all the time. There's so many different avenues you can go down within the cleaning industry. It's such a diverse industry. So obviously working with Compact and Bow, you alluded to COVID being a pivotal point then. What happened with the change from moving from Compact and Bow to starting Digital Scientists?
Wow. I mean, funny enough, I had a little bit of side work when I was at Compact and Bow in the final year, because we were doing a sales course on Sandler Sales Mastery. And there was a gentleman on there that ran a sustainability business, and he was having some troubles growing his business online and wasn't having much success. And he had a very big website. It's very insightful articles, real in-depth sustainability topics. And he was struggling to get the inquiries in consistently. So he asked me what I could do to help him out. Started to charge him a small amount of money, just a small side project, which was probably a silly thing to do at the time, because I was always hugely committed to Compact and Bow, and I'd wake up at 9, I'd still be working at 9 o'clock at night. Yeah. So the commitment was always there. But that gave me my first experience of showing that, wow, what I've done for Compact and Bow, and where they had got to the point where we had just so many inquiries coming in, you could now look at possibly scaling the team, because you've just got more to feed them with, and they can do X amount of their own time going out hunting themselves, but they can also be fed to keep their pipeline full during the year, right? I could duplicate that for other businesses, and that was the first example that I saw. But rolling round to COVID, it's obviously a difficult time for a lot of businesses. As I said, I did get a commission. I got a good commission, but I was also very high on salary. So you're looking at a portion of the population that I was probably top 4% on earnings. So I was, as my chairman would say, on Hollywood wages. So and what a brilliant company to work for. I was never actually put under any pressure at all, but I put myself under pressure because I felt that weight very heavy. So it come to COVID. Obviously, I couldn't go out and sell anymore. Doing stuff was very hard. We were sending out quotes by email. We had to look at keeping quite a large team of people going, keeping the business afloat, and the chairman had to make some very hard choices. So when you're looking at all your costs and you're looking at what you're currently doing and who can fill what gaps if you needed a restructure, well, with that level of inquiry coming in every day and with the years and years of experience for the people that are actually running the company or have always run the company or own the company, they can start dealing with those inquiries themselves for the time being. So I was left on furlough and I went and started off on my own. That's basically where it sort of started. And then did that from the bedroom. You remember first couple of times we had some video calls. I was in the office, the top floor of my house. And I just built it up from there, really. And most of my customers have come from referrals. I haven't even really got started yet. We're got a good turnover. It's a profitable business. Now I've got a couple of other businesses that go alongside it as well, one of which my wife runs.
Yeah.
I mean, all things happen for a reason, I suppose. I was wrongly bitter at the time when I left Compact and Bow because it was a very personal project to me. I put a lot of hours in. So since I had left there, I'd been chewing at the chairman's ankles constantly because I wanted back in, right? Yeah. So I managed to pick them back up as a customer as well, and I've just had a very fruitful relationship with them for the last 12 months as well. So it all happens for a reason, and you learn some valuable life lessons when you are, like I say, you over the years, I spent all my time asking questions of the people who inspired me. And I can remember all the key people in the cleaning industry that have led me to where I am today. And I know the people that have got me to where I am. And when I was growing and developing, I'd be constantly asking questions and learning from them, right? But I got to the point at Compact and Bow where I probably stopped asking questions and spent too much time telling. Yeah. And became a bit of a nuisance because I started, you start believing in your own points of view, right? Yeah. And you see the way in which the company should go. And I got very heavy on the pushing. So at that point you can become maybe a bit of a nuisance or believe in your own abilities a bit too much.
Yeah, sure.
And then you get taught a life lesson, don't you? And that was the point for me. Just at COVID. And I got taught a lot of life lessons at that point because I was 25 stone, almost 24 something stone, almost 140 kilos, 135 kilos. And just to the point where I didn't think I could do wrong. Yeah. You get to the point where you think you're untouchable, right? So everything happens for a reason. And COVID was the big reset for me. Sorted my life out. I've lost 5 stone, went off and started to work for myself. And I've got all these people to thank for it. And now I've got a salon in Portsmouth that my wife runs. We've got a team of 5 there. I had a new customer come on board who needed an e-commerce company, international, needed a lot of assistance, but couldn't afford to pay what they needed to pay. So they offered me equity in the business. So I'm a 1/3 shareholder of them now. Nice. And that's just absolutely exploding, doing really well. Good. From the SEO that we put in place. So life is relatively good now from that perspective, but it all starts from the cleaning industry. Yeah.
So you mentioned and alluded to that obviously your time and playing around with SEO started at Compact and Bow with you doing the company's SEO. So what made you focus in on that specifically, and what made you divert into that as a business?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I'd always been toying around with it, and I knew they're operating in a very big established market. And I thought, well, if we can just take 2-3% of those inquiries, I'll be fed all year, and my life would be so much easier. So I'd already had a really good foundation on what needed to be done. Spent so many years just generally being a bit of a geek and nerd on the computer, playing around with websites and doing other bits. And I just took what I'd learned. Again, I was given the freedom by the MD and the chairman. So long as I was bringing the figures in, they left me to do what I needed to do. So I spent a lot of time learning, researching, testing, putting in plans of action, again, giving it some time, doing some more analysis, which is what SEO is. It is a lot of research, a lot of planning, a lot of testing, and you just keep reviewing what you're doing. And over time, it's all methodical and systematic. And over time, you can really start grabbing a portion of that market that's established. But of course, the market has to be established to really benefit from a search engine perspective.
Yeah.
So if those customers are going online looking for equipment providers, and you can get your company there at the top, you're going to get a big portion of the market, right? And that's what happened. So I knew if I got those foundations right, that would take the pressure off of me, self-preservation, if you like, to some extent, and make it easier for the sales team. And I knew that would be a good strategy for the future of the business.
How did you go through that startup phase? I mean, SEO, I imagine if you've got a laptop or computer of a relatively good standard and speed, it's relatively low barrier to entry to start. You obviously need that knowledge, because I personally have been on the end of suppliers that I think maybe was lacking in knowledge. So how did you tell us, one, how digital scientist, what made you go for that? And what was the startup process of that? Or was it relatively easy? Because if you've got a laptop, you can do it. And obviously you've done your extensive research before that.
Yeah. The reason I decided to call the business digital scientist is because there's a lot of, it's data science.
Yeah.
You'll spend a lot of time accumulating data. You need to learn skills to analyze. You need to be able to draw concrete conclusions. And then with that information, you've got to take that and do something with it to get to where you want, get to where you want those particular pages and your site to be overall, right? So if you're looking to start in SEO, if you're a business, if you're a smaller business, small local business, then you can acquire various tools for £30-50 a month that will give you some guidance and start you on your journey. It's a long journey though to learn SEO.
For those of you, just flipping back on the channel, for those of the people that maybe don't know what SEO is, can you give me a brief overview?
Sure, search engine optimization. So making sure that if you're in an established market, someone open up their phone looking for the local salon to get their nails done, they're searching in any related queries to do with gel nail extensions or anything else. I know far too much about beauty now. That you can
give Adam a few tips.
Your business will effectively come up top.
Yeah. And
you'll be looking at any of the packs. So you could be in the organic Google rankings, you could be in the image packs, video packs, local map rankings. So it's the opportunity is enormous. And some people are visual, so they'll be looking for videos. Some people are visual and want to see the imagery. Some people will click in and read all your copy. So you need to sort of cover all angles. Some people have questions, so they'll be looking at the fact sections and, so yeah, the key thing is to start with your finding the right tools and the research element first, which is the common problem in the industry. Is most businesses will hire a web designer or a web developer, of which both are different, and set about creating a new site, but haven't done any research, spent any time understanding the market, don't understand how people are searching or looking for companies like theirs, and build the site in completely the wrong way. And then it just won't perform. Yeah. And there's a common saying for marketers nowadays, which is if you just create good copy and good content, the traffic will come, which I only agree with to a certain degree, because you could write the most amazing content in the world, but if you haven't structured it correctly using the right data, or you're not talking about the right topics, then your site just isn't going to do anything. Yeah. So you need to understand what people are looking for. And quite often, when we first started at Compactable as an example, we brainstormed the keywords that we thought people would search for to find the business. And when we actually went about and did some research, and we went from our 5 or 10 keywords, which we thought was really extensive, we found tens of thousands, and the tens of thousands, totally different queries that we didn't even think of. Yeah. And the ones that we thought would be good were actually rubbish. Yeah. They would be used, and some of them had a zero search volume, so less than 10 searches a month. So again, it comes back to the data. It's a starting point. Yeah. But you can learn SEO. It takes years to do it properly, because it's all about testing.
I think for me as a business owner, early days, I think a lot of business owners focus on, let's make sure I've got a website up and running. Most of them are mediocre at best. Don't really focus on it because maybe they've got another system, in terms of referrals and things like that. But for us, both of our businesses, JCD and Greywater, having that inbound piece is key importance because it's not reliant on anyone being there. It still happens. Right. The phone rings, regardless if I'm out unblocking drains or I'm out at a customer meeting around at one of our big customers. You've still got that steady. So it's something I think. Do you think business owners overlook SEO?
They definitely do. Yeah. I mean, I would say probably 90% of the companies I come across that have already had websites developed have not, even 95% have not given any consideration at all to having any research done before they build the site. So most times the sites are structured incorrectly. They have real basic issues that prevent prevent their site from entering the index and being crawled properly. Very basic
indexes.
So it's crawled and then it's added into the search results. Right. And I've just done one recently. The site was developed, and this company was a mobile valeting business and ceramic coating company, but they've been trying to get their site in the index into Google search results for the last 2 years. And it's because they're topically, they had 3-4 pages on the site and they're all talking about the same thing. So they're all competing with one another. Yeah. They had brand new domains. They have no natural authority, and Google was just having none of it because it couldn't work out which pages it was supposed to be indexing for what. Lots of basic issues. So it was a relatively quick job for us to sort that out, and they entered the index last month. And now you just see a nice big massive spike. Nice increase. Nice big positive trend.
Obviously, it sounds like there's so many complicated parts to SEO that probably people or business owners, or even big corporates don't really have an understanding of. What's some of the complicated parts or the hard parts that business owners need to look out for or get someone else in? Is there like a top 3 that you would say? Right, you need to make sure if you're not doing your SEO in-house, which I imagine a lot of people say they do but don't really, but is there any like a top 3 or top 5 that a business owner, be that in the cleaning space or any other space really, needs to make sure that if they're delivering in-house is looked out for, or certainly if they're outsourcing, something they can benchmark?
Yeah, so first of all, get all your tools set up. So make sure you've got your search console set up. Make sure you have Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager if you're firing your scripts from there. Have your local GMB profile up, Google My Business local profile, so you're appearing in a map pack. Yep.
That's when you Google and your business comes up with a name and where you are.
So you got your
on
profile on the right-hand side, and you have your Google reviews there. You can have your activity on there, your social media profiles, but it also includes you in the map pack. So if anyone's searching, they can see you're pinned
nice
on
and
that.
local.
Nice and local, right? So if you're a local business, that's a fundamental one. So start getting all the consoles and analytics set up first. That's the basics, because that's what's going to track your data. So once your website's up, you'll start accruing data, and that's what you can do something with later on. Then make sure you do get the basics right. And this is where other consultants will turn around and say, yes, SEO is just fundamentally checking boxes and doing the basics, like making sure your titles, the main title of your page, your header ones, is correct and sets out the topic of the page, right? So on your homepage, 90% of companies will say, welcome to JCD on their homepage, right? So topically, if someone's searching for your business and your brand keywords, JCD cleaning, okay, that helps them reach your homepage, okay? But if your homepage, which is typically the strongest page of your site, where you typically have the most backlinks pointing at, you really want to be talking about what you do in your header one. So your commercial cleaning company, whatever your target query is going to be, and then your homepage is ranking topically more so for that. And then all you have subsequent pages in terms of your structure will be all related to commercial and contract cleaning, right? But most people just say in their header one, hi, welcome to our site, something like that. And they'll do that on each page. Yeah. On each page, the header one is just completely wrong. All the meta titles and descriptions are wrong, although your description, when you're in the search results and you search for a company, you've got the description there of the particular site. That doesn't help you index, doesn't affect your ranking, but it does help your click-through rates, and click-through rates is a positive signal to Google. So if you're enticing people to come onto your site with a really nice description, they come on the site and they start interacting with it, and you don't get a bounce because they've scrolled the page or clicked through to another one, big positive signal to Google, right? But they'll get all the descriptions wrong as well. So they won't get any traffic just because they've got a really poor and bland description. So get the basics right. And I don't need to tell people what the basics are, because there are literally hundreds of thousands of guides online on the basics of SEO, things you need to be checking out. Yeah. And it's very easy to look that up and get that right from day one. Some of them are more technical, but mostly
simple stuff.
Get the basics right so that you stand a chance so that your site enters the index and is in the search results. To be honest, you can do that yourself.
Yeah.
But climbing the rankings and getting to page 1 and then those top 3 positions and bringing in all that traffic, that's a completely different matter. But, the sooner you enter the index, the sooner you're on your way. The sooner you're accruing data, the sooner you're gaining authority. And again, the more you can do over that period of time, really. And if you start today and get it right today, you're not starting in 12 months' time. And most people keep putting it off.
Yeah.
So I'll be picking up jobs for customers that have had a business for 5 or 10 years and they just never taken it seriously. Or they keep having their websites redeveloped. My site's not doing anything. It must be the website. I'll keep redesigning it, redeveloping, just keep recreating the wheel. But they're not getting anywhere because they're missing the whole point. You can make the nicest looking shopping mall and think to yourself, I'm going to place it in the Sahara Desert, giving no consideration as to how you're actually going to get anyone to it.
Yeah.
Same thing for the website. Don't build your website and put it in the Sahara Desert. Get all your research done right. Get all the basics done right first. Then make sure you're submitting your sitemap and submitting it to the Google Search Console. Again, all of these sorts of things there's guidance you can find online to get it in the index so it starts to perform.
Which is what you want out of a website.
Which is what you want.
And people to be able to find it. There's the adult, and this goes to the cleaning industry as well. In-house versus outsourced. So do you have a particular view on whether business owners should be training? Because sometimes I see it falls under marketing manager and they'll do some SEO. Again, point of debate. It's like Susan doing the cleaning on a Friday, from accounts. It doesn't really work in my eyes. But then again, I've got a vested interest, so I possibly would say that. So what's your view on having outsourced in-house SEO?
The problem for marketers nowadays is they need to be awfully skilled, don't they? I mean, you look at a job description for an average marketer, they need to be experts in Adobe, they need to be able to design, they need to understand branding, messaging, they need to have analytical skills, they need to be data scientists, they need to have technical skills, they need to be web developers. The list is extensive. Just go look at the average job description for a marketer. Totally unrealistic. Minimum, not particularly great pay. But if you then conversely look at a job description for an expert SEO, for the best SEOs in the industry, you're looking at 80, 85k plus.
Yeah.
Not because SEO is easy, right? Because you can't learn. You can get going if you're a local business with some tools, and it's better that you do that sooner rather than later if you currently don't have the budget. But you're not going to be doing what an expert SEO will be doing as their full-time primary function, and that's costing big bucks, 60 grand, 80 grand plus. And the best SEOs out there are not even agencies. They're one-man bands, and they are just filthy rich because they're so good at what they do. They've been doing it for years that they can charge based on value, and they're just performing and they're just bringing huge results. So in-house is always a challenging one because what do you really want that marketer to be doing on a day-to-day basis? Are they keeping your existing customers engaged? Are they doing outbound and trying to create new opportunities? Or do you want them to be doing something that's a really slow burn and longer term burn, because it's mid to long term SEO, whereas that person could be focusing on PPC and getting some shorter term results. Again, they're quite often asked to be well versed in PPC and other forms of
PPC is
pay per click.
Yeah, so that's your Google ads that you pay for.
That's it. But even social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, other bits like that as well. So I think it's somewhat unrealistic. And I've just picked up a customer last week, actually, one I spoke to about 12 months ago, who, funny enough, actually offered me a job not long after I'm only a year into my own business.
Was you tempted? I'm having one of those days where someone offered me a job.
I wasn't. I can't say I was tempted, but it certainly helped how I felt.
Yeah,
it was a positive, right? That was nice. But they're a big furniture company based in Portsmouth. £4 million a year. So I think that's a nice size. That's typically where our customers are. We don't turn small customers down, by the way. We do micro enterprises. We do sole traders, but we're typically sort of £1 to £4 million mark. But we don't turn down anywhere generally if the person and the project is right. But so my point is regarding that particular customer, they've got huge amounts of resources. They've got an outsourced web development agency. I think they're out in Sweden or Denmark, I think they said. And they have a big in-house e-commerce team. So they spend a lot of time loading up new projects, working from Excel sheets, trying to optimize their listings, trying to generate and drive sales. And they've got two arms. They distribute to other retailers around the UK, and then they've got their own online retail business as well. So they've got two websites effectively, but they just don't have the time or expertise in-house to learn what they need to learn for SEO. And they need to start this sooner rather than later. So we're now doing a project of training two of their team members, as well as managing their project on an ongoing basis. We charge them a retainer. It's only sort of 10, 15 hours a month. But from that, it gives us the ability to tell them in those 10, 15 hours where they're going wrong and what they're doing right and what they can do. So quick wins, right? Even basics, like they don't set the sitemap. So if you're looking at all the pages on the site, they don't set the prioritization of which pages should be crawled first. So everything in terms of all their categories and all the projects are the same. And if you've got a restricted crawl budget and you can't have, and you don't have extensive backlinks pointing at your site, the risk is that a lot of those products won't be indexed because they'll just never be read. They'll just never be crawled. But by setting the prioritization in the sitemap, the key pages will be read. So if you know particular categories are going to perform better than individual products because people are looking for the next range of beds, oak beds or whatever, you'd set that as a better prioritization than, say, an individual product, right? So within that retainer, we can give them all the guidance, and then we're just doing progressive training, which we'll start with, and I'm just drawing up the training plan for these two individuals. We'll start with analytics. We'll start with interpreting the data, getting the tools right. Then we'll be moving on to the basics of what they can do on the site, quick wins, and then we'll be moving on to more technical tasks and probably some web development, Google Tag Manager, being able to set up rules and triggers.
So it sounds like it's a little bit of a hybrid solution.
Yes. So they're doing it. They're going to be learning from our team and taking it and actioning it themselves. And I will then be overseeing it and advising them on what they've done right and what they've done wrong. So that's quite a good solution because they don't have to employ us full time and they don't have to employ a full-time SEO at a huge cost, right? So they've got the resources, they're just missing the expertise, but they do have the staff at the time. So it's win-win, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're giving them some training and they're learning, and we've got a really interesting project to work on. So yeah, it's about finding the right solution. I think every business is different. No business is the same. And every one of my customers are different. None of them are identical. I have a different solution for each one.
Yeah, I think it's horses for courses, depending on budget. I think it's something for me. It's something I wish I'd invested in. I mean, I like to think I take it relatively seriously now, but it's something I wish I'd done earlier. Right. So one thing I wanted to ask you about is the SEO cycle, as I call it. For the 9 years I've been at my own business, I've gone through several different suppliers. Now, cards on the table, we work with James, and that's why he's here, because I think he can bring some value to other business owners. And he's certainly the best supplier that I've worked with since doing SEO. There's always, I don't want to say as far as getting scammed. That's probably maybe a little bit unfair on some of the other suppliers I've worked with and that may well listen to this podcast. But there's always that promise when you work with SEO people, well, you need a good 12 months here before you really start seeing results. So you'll spend money with someone, an SEO provider, for 12 months and not much really happens. And I've gone through several of that, and we've had examples where I worked with a supplier and it transpires, again, because I don't know, and this is why I prefer outsourced to in-house, because I don't have the expertise. As a business owner, there's no point trying to wear every single hat for us, especially as a business grows. You know, I'm not an SEO expert, the accountant and all that stuff. You get people that know better than you. But one of my SEO providers was buying traffic from India or somewhere like that. And he's giving me data that I'm looking at and going, oh, well, that's good. I've got 1,000 visitors coming this month. But then I don't have the capability to deliver in India. And I don't really have a desire to either. So, you know, it was pretty much useless. It's money down the drain. So is there anything that we should be aware of, or people should be aware of, you know, scams or bad practices or bad suppliers that we, you know, they should look out for and avoid? Yeah.
So I would be highly adverse to anyone sending you over a free report, because free doesn't mean nearly good.
On a week. Sometimes I send them to James just to wind him up.
It does wind me up as well. Yeah,
someone's trying to get your business here, and he goes off on one.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, I get them all the time.
I had one for Compactenbow last week, and the chairman sent it to me and said, "James, do you want to deal with this?" And I'm like, "Could you just go back to him and ask them for the report, because they said you're not performing for any of your top keywords." And we track like 4,700 keywords for that company, of which 700 of them are in position number 1 now after sort of 5-6 years. So I asked him to go back. I don't know if he did actually, but just so we could get a copy of how crap the report is, to be honest, because that is what you get all the time. A free report downloaded from some sort of system. They put the URL in, gives a scan of the domain, gives you the set of number backlinks, gives you some keywords that they're currently ranking for. And because it's quite technical, they'll then send a really wishy-washy email saying that you've got all these issues on your website that need to be fixed. And they just try to, how could I put this?
Go for it. We're no holds barred on the podcast. You can even swear if you want to.
They're trying to take advantage of the fact that you don't know and you may be concerned that you're not doing very well. But you could be on a massive positive trajectory and you could be just on the periphery of getting tens of thousands of visitors every month and you're just sat on page 2, you're not quite yet on page 1, right? But they'll make up a load of rubbish that you're just not anywhere near, and then you need this package and you need all this. And this is frequent. This is a constant battle for me actually as an agency owner now and a consultant, where I'm having to constantly bat back. I mean, the latest one I've got is an SEO consultant and an agency can be replaced by Hike SEO, which is a small application that targets local businesses and gives you the checkbox section, right? So you put your site in, gives you a plan of what you need to do to get your site ranking. Very good for if you're a very small local business, but it doesn't do at all what an SEO does. And the consultant fundamentally misunderstands actually what an SEO does as part of his day-to-day because he's never done it.
Yeah.
And that advice is bad advice and it's been spouted around. And this is common. This is a common problem in the industry that all SEOs face. And the best ones will, I mean, at the same time, it's also an opportunity, because when we actually get on and we're approached by these companies, it's then very easy for us to win that client round. Your prime example, you consider the budgets you used to have and the fact that that company was acquiring false traffic and saying, look how amazing your traffic is, but you weren't necessarily getting particularly good leads, right? And you're just believing in the data and what's being pitched to you all the time. But any serious SEO that looks at that and actually delves deeper and starts looking at the data and the sources and everything else, and very quickly you can see what's going on. And that is common. And the latest one is video segments being sent to company owners on LinkedIn with their website up on a share screen, and they're inspecting the page, trying to find any basic flaw with the page, totally ignoring if the page is actually performing or if there's any traffic to the site, just highlighting anything they could be very critical of to try and win the attention of the prospective customer. So it's very easy to be sold a dream, and you have to be sure that your expectations are being managed appropriately. And if you're going to approach an SEO or be approached and accept an SEO's approaches and you're going to give them the opportunity, probably you should get an ironclad contract with them or no contract at all and base it on their performance and see what the difference is. Because otherwise you don't want to be in the point at the point where you sign up with them for 12 months, 24 months, whatever.
12 months seems to be the common one that I get sold.
And you just find that you're paying an invoice and they're just sending you a report, right? And you're just getting sent a report on 10 keywords a month, like this keyword this month's done this, and it's just absolute utter rubbish. So any decent SEO will come to you and say, I've had a quick look at your site and I can see there are some issues. They're not going to want to do a full report because time is money. Why would they give you all their time for free? And they're going to quote you for the research. And that's what we do. If someone comes to us and they're a referral, because we don't do any outbound at the moment, we get all of our clients on referrals. We offer a paid research package first, and the research is into the market, into their competitors, how the competitors are performing, who their competitors are in the index or in the search results, so they know what they're up against. It's not their competitor around the corner, it's who they're competing with online if we're looking to take a chunk of that market and bring them all those opportunities. Again, if it's an established market. So research first, data first, proper analysis, which will be comprehensive. And you'll look at this report and you'll be like, oh, fuck that. I don't want that. I don't want to read it. Come over and you do this yourself, actually. Yeah. I'll send you reports and I don't think you always read them. And I think you'd rather me come and sit down and talk it through with you. But that's common because they're really in depth. Like I've sent you reports with thousands and thousands of keywords on there and all the ranking adjustments. Yeah. And I'll spend all day looking at that.
I look at the
you
graph,
don't have time for it.
And if it's going that way,
yeah, right,
I'll just go perfect.
Yeah, exactly. right? So you want to, but we need to give you the right information so that you can make an informed decision and you know what's going on. But quite often the information that comes over is rubbish. So again, don't accept anything free. If someone's offering you something for free, they're probably not worth the time, I'm afraid, because the best SEOs will not be giving you their time for free. I can guarantee you that. They will be charging you, and they would already be busy.
Yeah. I'm going to say this. It does make me laugh with SEO, because just by its very nature, you know, you would expect an SEO company to have good SEO, right? So,
yeah, not true though.
No,
not true. Because
if you're telling me you're the best SEO company in the Southeast, if I Google SEO companies in the Southeast and you don't appear on the top 10 pages,
well, it all comes down to, well, again, it all comes down to how you want to grow your business, right? So my agency now is at about 160K. And we'll come on to the issues of that shortly, actually. But I've got an office on the high street, or on a smaller high street in Portsmouth, and we get all of our clients from referrals. We get all the traffic that comes past every day. So do we invest significant amounts of time competing with other brilliant SEOs? No, we don't, because it's already a hugely saturated market. If you think about all the amazing SEOs that are out there, and then you think about how many crap SEOs out there, which is there are thousands, tens of thousands of companies. It's an awful big investment in time and money. But I do agree with you. You should be able to show your capability, which is why if I'm ever talking to a client, we are armed, right? I'll give you case studies. I'll ask a client, make sure they're happy for me to case study them as a business. And you'll see live data, you'll see historical data from before when we started working with them, and we'll tell you how we've achieved it and where the relevance is between that company and yours, right? So I do agree the premise that in an ideal world, the SEO would be the number one company. But it comes down to time, and every business is different. Not every business will benefit from SEO. It all depends on how you want to grow it, right? Some companies, they operate in an established market, but they might be better doing networking. So again, it comes down to the channels, it comes down to your competition, it comes down to how long your competitors have been established. If you're dealing with multi-million pound businesses in your sector that have been operating for 40 years, that's going to be a hard project, in which case you might want to look at the PPC and other aspects of your marketing, right? Digital marketing, offline marketing, networking, and other events. So again, every package for every customer is different. No two businesses are the same. Every recommendation is different, which is why I always laugh when someone sends a free report to a customer saying, we'll do your SEO for £900 a month. It's just a load of rubbish, because they wouldn't have done any research, and they don't understand what's happening with the business to even be able to quote at that point. Yeah. And that's common. That's the common thing.
Yeah. It's a bit of a murky industry. And as I say, getting a reputable contractor that you can work with and build a relationship, I think that's a big part of it, isn't it? Making sure you've got someone that, I regularly ring James up and say, I've got this problem. Can you help me out on that? And having someone there, I think that, that trust that you need, one thing I'm getting at a long way, you need someone you can trust at the end of the day. And if you're just hearing from your SEO provider once every other month and they don't answer the phone or whatever, but they're constantly sending you an invoice on a monthly basis, it is tough. And I think a lot of it, and it's the same with most suppliers, it's about having that rapport, isn't it? Rather than, facets of SEO is so technical that it's best for us, it's best to have someone. But if you can understand or get a basic knowledge and that suits your business, and you've got other business streams coming in terms of revenue, then what
absolutely
works?
I mean, that's where, I don't want my agency to grow too big. I'm looking probably 5-6 people max, and then it will stay there. So I'm only 2 sort of staff away from where I want to be.
You beat one of my questions.
So I don't want to have such a large agency that I lose touch with my customers. I know every one of my customers personally. I get to know them individually. I work with them all. I work with their teams. Easy going. New customers, I don't sign contracts. Even some of my longest standing customers, I don't sign contracts with, because we just don't need to. Because we have that rapport. We have their trust. So even though they're getting, someone's trying to poach them every day and send them all these crappy reports, they've got confidence that what we're doing is right for them and it's working, and they see it's working because the phone's ringing and they're getting the inquiries, right? So it does come down to expectations, and managing them right and making sure when you bring a new customer in, they've had a proper assessment, all the research done, so you can tell them, oh, this is realistically how long you're looking for this. But, you know, the sooner you get started, the sooner you get to where you want to be, right?
Where's the industry going to be in 5 years' time? Is there obviously we've got AI coming in, and people think they've got Chat GPT, that they've cracked it, and they don't need a marketing expert or SEO.
I keep hearing this at the moment from other consultants that the SEO industry is on its way out. But, you know, they were saying that 10 years ago, the SEO is dead. SEO is dead. And you don't really know, but at the end of the day, you're always going to need someone optimizing what you're putting out, researching. Again, the best SEOs are not people that come on your website and just check a few of your titles and tick some boxes. They're people that really fundamentally understand your market, what you offer, what your competitors are doing, and draw you up a strategy based on that. And then you have a content plan, and everything else that's done technically all surrounds that, and it's all very in depth. So Chat GPT is a big opportunity. I've already got Max, my content editor, using it. It's helping him with his copywriting. He was recruited to do our copy. I write good copy. I've done loads of awards submissions over the years, but I hate it. It's not a passion. I love working with my customers, understanding their business, helping them on their journey to growing, getting the better lifestyle that they want. Do I enjoy the copy side? I don't. So I recruited a copywriter, a digital content editor. So he does all that for me. And ChatGPT helps him. We were using other writing tools before, but they seem to be scraping the web and pulling in other people's descriptions and titles and other stuff. So sometimes we use it for inspiration, and I think it certainly helps, but it's not there to be replacing an actual copywriter.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think, you know, my brief experience, and I haven't used it as much as some because it's just not really my industry. You know, it gives you a good base idea. Yeah. But it needs that input.
Absolutely. Because the thing is, if you're typing it in there and you're just going to copy and paste what comes up, so is everyone else. And then all the content that's offered up is not going to be in any way of value to the end user. Again, it might be written nice, but again, you should be, when you're producing your pages of your site, your services, you're supposed to be outlining what you really bring to the table, right? Not what some AI has produced for you. It doesn't understand your business. So it might be good based on generally what the sector you're serving or your industry, but not necessarily what you do. So in 5 years' time, SEO, I think I can see, I mean, Bing are already looking at incorporating it. Other search engines are going to do the same. And I think it's going to certainly change and make it easier for people to get and find what they want. But to be fair, Google are already doing a really good job of that, which is why they're, you know, serving billions and billions of results every day, you know. So it's got its place, but certainly what I've had from other consultants is they've been at some seminar, they've been told about AI and how it's going to revolutionize. It will revolutionize a lot of things, but will it kill off the SEO industry? No, it won't. Because all the time people are looking for companies. There's always going to be that personalization. Someone needs to produce the content. Someone needs to do the web development. Someone needs to do all the other technical side. Someone needs to analyze the data. SEO is not ticking boxes. Yeah. It is a huge set of skills that covers web development, data sciences and analysis, on-site works, some design elements, coding and application for producing applications such as calculators and tools that have a value to your customers on the site. Again, funny enough, ChatGPT can produce that for you if you ask it to code something that has had some pretty remarkable results. So again, it will help you on your way. It will help you get there quicker, but it certainly isn't going to replace.
Okay. We ask all our guests, and I've had to say, because we've had a lot of COVID related ones, and I understand that was a difficult period for everyone. So it seems, and it's most recent, it seems a natural go-to. But can you give us, because as I always say, I think business ownership is over glamorized. I think it certainly has a place for certain individuals, but not everyone is a natural entrepreneur or will shoulder the stress of having their own business well. Can you give us, is there a standout moment, both positive that you think, you know, that you distinctly remember in the short time you've had your business that really stands out for you, and vice versa with a low point of, you know, business ownership? Can you give me an example of one of each?
Yeah. So conversely for COVID, that was awakening for me. That was a new opportunity. I mean, I was working for another company at that point leading up to COVID, and I was massively overweight, inherently unhappy with how I'd become. You know, I went from being really fit to like I say, 24 and I'll come on 25 stone. So it was a wake up call and I completely reshifted my life. And so I see, and that's put me on my current path. So I have businesses now because of COVID. So that for me,
so for a change, COVID actually was a positive.
I can't say that's a negative, right? That's helped me reevaluate. And key people did that as well. Key people looked at me and were like, no, you've gone down the wrong path. You need a bit of a slap and you need to sort yourself out. So, and that helped. And so at that period, it all reset. So that was fundamentally good for me.
Good.
In terms of key moments, I've got a current battle with HMRC. So I'd say if you're running a business, get it right, and maybe get an accountant. I mean, you should need an accountant for this. So I've been trying to register for my VAT since October of last year.
I've had a problem with mine.
So I am 6 months past my voluntary registration. Registration is 85k. I'm approaching 160. Who's going to pay my VAT bill? And they've had posted applications. They've had special delivery applications. They've had at least 6 applications online, but their site's constantly giving me technical issues. So that's been sent to them on email. I eventually got the email from them in November. So of course, every time you apply, they tell you that you have to wait 8 weeks before you contact them. So send us an application. We'll do it properly. Stop bothering us and phoning us. What a load of rubbish. So November 28th, I finally got an email address to send them the applications to electronically, sent it to them. Come the end of January, phoning them. They still haven't even read the email, haven't done anything with it. They received it because I got the autoresponders. Phoned them again a few weeks ago. They said that contrary to the advice I was given, where I've already posted and had all these applications, just download your electronic answers from the online portal, send us your flat rate scheme application. Sent them all and they said, well, actually now we could do with having the actual full application and not just the application you did online. So again, I had to do that. Phoned them again last week, still haven't done it. So HMRC, the organisation and you think where we are, the country is finances, they're not taxing the organisations they should be taxing that are getting away with billions in turnover that aren't paying anything. They're not taxing people like me who are trying to pay my taxes and registering me, making me liable for losses or a later court case because I'm going to have to fight that one out now. Luckily, I've got everything in writing. And they're also allowing people to defraud them because they had a self-assessment scam using my details a couple of years ago and they were defrauded like 10 grand. So I think this is where a lot of this spells from now. So I haven't been able to do everything that I need to do as a business owner, self-assessments, VAT, because I think I'm on some blacklist. And I'm contacting them and they don't respond. And every time I phone them, you get fobbed off. So that is a definitive issue. For anyone starting a business, take that seriously. Don't wait for them thinking that they're going to do things properly because I guarantee you they're not. That's
a top point. Usually, people with the low points, it's interesting. That's something left field that no one's mentioned. And to be honest with you, for something you think should work categorically, it is a high point of stress, HMRC. So it's great. Keep on top of that. Keep on top of your taxes, and make sure that's all in line. But it still can be a headache. I mean, I can have an example the other day. I logged on to our PAYE because obviously we've got a big labour base. And I noticed that our PAYE liability tells you what's coming up, what's come out. And I noticed just at a glance that the liability for the month coming up was massive. And it was like double what I'd ever paid before. We've had no new start. So we haven't doubled our payroll, but I noticed it. Went to our accountant, and again, they're super hard to come by. So again, a top point with accountants. Went on there, and I pulled it in my account. I said, look, I've noticed this. One, why haven't you picked it up? I've picked it up. But anyway, it's a mistake by HMRC. And we're talking in my business now, we do 7 figures in revenue. We're talking mistakes like that are like 5-figure mistakes. That if you didn't pick up, they'd happily just you'd pay that. They'll send, if you miss a payment, they'll send a debt collector's letter to your door like that. But if you need something from them, I think I had a credit on there as well. Same thing. If I miss a payment or I'm underpay or something, they'll send me a letter for 51p within days. I rang them for a rebate. Oh yeah, you'll have to wait till, this is like October, you'll have to wait till February next year to get that rebate. So it can be It causes you unnecessary
cash flow,
stress,
right? I mean, cash flow sinks most businesses, does it not? If you're not taking that seriously, and that's the sort of thing that will really cause you a problem. Unexpected bills that you need to pay, or money that's not paid back to you on time. Yeah, that's a massive issue, right?
Yeah, they are a pain in the backside. And to say, is it still not resolved now?
No, still not resolved. I sent them another email yesterday saying, why is no one picking this up? But they don't care. No, my tax liability is not their problem. When I spoke to them recently, and I have to ask them every time for a reference when I call them. So, of course, you spend 45 minutes on the phone waiting. This is a matter of fact. Every time I ring, it's 45 minutes.
Yeah. Before I went on holiday, I think it was an hour and 20. I had to put the phone down because I had to go to another appointment.
Just sat there waiting with music playing in the background, losing
poor music at that.
Yeah. But I have to ask them for a call reference, which they're reluctant to give you. So then put you on hold for like 10 minutes for some reason before they can issue you with a call reference. I think that's because they just start logging everything that you've been speaking about. And the last time I had a conversation, I'm like, I've made a complaint now. I want someone in your senior team, this is the registration department, to look at this and tell me, once I'm registered, who's going to pay on my liability? What's happening here? And they're like, well, you could have invoiced your customers an extra 20%. And I'm like, well, have you ever run a company before? Like, if you're doing some decent numbers, even small numbers, would a customer pay a 20% inflated invoice so that you can pay your VAT liability 6 months later because they couldn't be asked to register you properly? No customer will. And that just doesn't come from a point of reality, does it?
I mean, if you have that conversation with a customer as well and say, oh, well, I'm just charging you just for when my VAT registration does come in. People think you're conning them. Right. And strict rules are you can't charge a customer for that without your VAT number. Yeah. So, and they don't care. And this is, for me, that is a massive stress, because now I'm thinking, wow, how much money am I going to owe? Well, I know how much money I'm going to owe because I know my figures, but who's going to pay it? Yeah. And do I want to pay it? No, I don't. I'm not going to pay for someone else's liability and the fact that they weren't willing to process a simple form. I said to them, once you get the information, how long does it take? 2 to 5 days. If you do it online, 2 to 5 days. But I've done it online. I've done everything they asked you to do. They take away 8 weeks, constantly fobbed off. And here we are. Started in October, now in March. Yeah, I think when I registered for Greywater VAT last year, I literally got the VAT number. I come via paper. So I opened it. I thought, oh, that's handy. I opened another letter the same day, and it was from HMRC saying, we've actually rescinded your VAT number because you're not eligible for VAT yet. And it literally was the same day. What? Yeah, it's the same.
You're voluntarily registering at that point, surely.
That's good old HMRC for you. And I say they can be a point of stress, and we won't get into...
I mean, my other, the e-commerce business, VAT registered, no problem.
I think once you're in the door, it's all right. But I say getting anything out of HMRC is a pain in the arse at the moment.
Huge.
And they can be a high point of stress. So make sure you guys keep on top of that. You mentioned quickly, we're near wrapping up now, but I just got a couple of more points I wanted to quickly cover. Can you tell me a little bit about a post you did really about your 18-year journey to happiness? You alluded to that just a minute ago.
Sure, yeah. I mean, well, I mean, when I left school, of course, I had a plan, and my plan actually was to go into economics, because I read some really good books in economics. I went and listened to Tony Benn speak, Labour MP years ago when I was at college. And so you have a plan for your life, and I think most people relate that when you have a plan, it doesn't work out that way.
Hardly
and
ever.
I never intended on working in the cleaning industry. But I stuck with it because of the opportunities. I was constantly given opportunities and flexibility, company cars, it was a relatively nice quality of life whilst I'm learning. Okay. So I always say to people, if you're doing a job, either you need to be paid the amount of money that you want to be paid, or you need to be learning, but ideally you want to be doing both. So you want to be able to increase your salary every now and then, be upskilling, learning more, but given opportunities. If you're not doing any of those, then you're in the wrong role. Unless, of course, you're quite happy doing what you're doing. Some people are just satisfied like that. They're not everyone's motivated. So 18 years for me was really preparing myself for being in business, and probably going through, like I said earlier, and believing in myself probably a little bit too much, to the point where the people that historically were supporting me and gave me the opportunities, I felt were now in my way, and I needed to not get rid of them, but I wanted them to do what I wanted them to do. And that's the position I got to at Compacton Bow. I think I got so much tunnel vision, focused on where I want the company to be. Any sort of issue with, if I wanted to do something that wasn't completely signed off, I'd keep raising it like a dog with a bone. I wouldn't let it go. And I think you have to, and that comes from working in the cleaning industry where it's very directive and you don't spend a lot of time negotiating or learning to work with your peers very well, because you're quite often firefighting, you're out dealing with a problem, and the simplest solutions are quite often not to negotiate and just to, this is what it is and this is what needs to happen. Get it done.
Do it now.
Right.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to adapt to being in a smaller company and now having to deal with people's trying to motivate them and manage them in a more effective way, as opposed to just performance manage them and give them a corrective action plan or smart objectives and say, you're not doing this. Why are you not doing this? And just be on their back, right? The right form of management probably isn't that at all. And you need to be getting the best out of people. And if they're feeling anxious and coming to work and you're creating that, then you need to have a good look at yourself, right? Never used to see it that way. I used to just think, well, if you're coming to work and you're not doing what you should be doing, then maybe you shouldn't be in that job and you should find a job that you're happy to do, which was quite often the case in the cleaning industry, because if people didn't want to come and do the job that they were paid to do, they quite often, when they moved on, go and do something and become highly successful. There's loads of examples of that I've seen over the years where people left the role and went on and did something highly, and it just completely changed their life. Yeah. And I can think of quite a few. So for me, it was from leaving school to the opportunities that I was given, learning along the way, a lot of self-teaching, research and upskilling and other bits, learning how to deal with people and overcome your fears. Anxiety has always been a big one for me. I've always been quite an anxious person, but that equally has always made me prepared for situations. So I feel like this today, last night I couldn't sleep hugely very well because my brain was awake all night thinking of potential things, that how I'm going to present, how I'm going to appear to be. Some people will call that imposter syndrome, right? So building that confidence up over the years, I can remember I was having panic attacks having to do presentations when I was 24, 25. And so getting to the point where you can confidently run a business, interact and engage with other people, have the confidence of your customers, it's a long journey, right? Yeah. Not everyone can combat that quickly. And for me, it was a real long journey because I always followed the money and didn't necessarily follow what I should have done, which I could have started sooner. But equally, when I went to start my business, I was much more prepared. Yeah. So come to the point of COVID, I've had extensive experience. I had multiple failures along the way, high points, low points, health issues, no work-life balance, liver damage, all sorts of things that I shouldn't be doing, from alcohol abuse to just being really overweight, just to being a prat really, because you're just so focused on waking up every day, earning money, doing your job, that you lose yourself, and all of a sudden the next thing you're 25 stone. So that's really, and also recognizing who you become as a person, because I realized that actually up until a few years ago, I'd become the person that I didn't really want to be. When I looked at how actually I was interacting with people, how I now look, completely different to where I've expected I was going to be, because I just solely focused on money. Yeah. And that's really the point of that post, which is take a step back and evaluate what's important in your life. I always ignored my family. I got married in December last year. That would have never happened if I continued with the way that I was going. I spend more time with my kids now, albeit running businesses is really challenging, but it has its highs and it has its lows in terms of the benefits, of course, in terms of being able to be independent and be flexible. But yeah, it's more about work-life balance, isn't it? And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself, if you only chase the money and you don't spend enough time considering yourself and other people around you, you'll be not in a very good place. And I think that was the point of that post.
It was a good post. It was tagged on the end here.
Yeah, outlining having a good look at myself and actually recognizing all the bad aspects of who I'd become, and trying to now positively move in the right direction and make positive changes.
Yeah, it was a top post, a good post, and it caught mine and Adam's attention. So I thought I'd tag that on because I thought there's some good takeaways there. Just reflecting on yourself, and I think that's something. Certainly, just coming back off holiday, you have that time to sit there and reflect. And I think there's certain areas, I need to improve on, and everyone can improve on, in terms of how they deal with people, their family, loved ones, etc. It's a tough one to get right all the time, and something as I've got older, I constantly battle with. So I thought it was a really, really good post.
Thank you.
What's next for Digital Scientists? What's the plans?
Wow. Well, we're growing at a good rate, but I think now it's a training piece. So I keep getting approached and told that I should outsource to India and hire talent from India and other places like that. And a lot of agencies are doing that now. But I don't agree with that. I'd like to have maybe a less profitable business, but a team that I enjoy working with, and make sure the training's right, because a couple of members, or one member of my team in particular, was completely new to the industry. So it needed a lot of time and training. And so, we've got a couple of roles to fill in the next couple of years. And then we just want to sort of consolidate what we're doing and just continue, really. I mean, I think the key for me is just to be known as a very effective enterprise SEO business or a business development or growth agency, because we've got so many skills in the areas. For example, PPC campaigns is very and highly relevant to SEO, who use a lot of the same data and a lot of the same skills. So our business has started from just a consultancy and transitioned into quite a lot of different things, including coding and application development based on processes and stuff, as you know. So that's it, really. I just want to get it to a healthy size, and then we can look at the sort of clients that we're working with, albeit we already pick and choose. I already pick and choose the customers. It's not about the money. If I have someone come in and we don't click and we don't connect in the right way, we don't work together. It's about working with the right people, because I don't want to get back to how I used to be and be very cynical, very anxious, and always be thinking about the money. And that's, if you recruit too many staff and have too many overheads, that's the problem, isn't it? You get that anxiety. And I can be that way and not have to be tying all my customers up with lengthy contracts because of how we operate. And I want to continue having that personal aspect and working with people very closely. And the way that we operate allows us to do that.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to. So I've had a couple of business people say, they don't necessarily. People come on and go, I want to grow it to £100 million. You just want to be in a position where you're financially comfortable.
Yes.
You can do whatever you want to do with your wife and children. You've got a good team. You've got good customers you're happy with, and you're happy at the end of the day.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the number one thing, isn't it?
I think if you really wanted to push your finances because of what we do, I just look for another idea and look for another business to start up and hire another team to run that one. I mean, there's really not very much to do in this country, is there, with your family? Let's face it. I mean, how many ththings could you do? Yeah. So if I had another opportunity for another business to start, it would be something in leisure and something surrounding families. Yeah. But I think that's quite a way off. Yeah. But later in life, Good. But yeah.
So James, tell us where anyone can find you, Digital Scientist, and your personal Instagram and social media.
So,
if you have them.
So if you're trying to find us online, just type in Digital Scientist UK.
Number one on Google.
Number one on Google, of course, if you type in our company name. The website URL is digital-scientists.co.uk, and it's at Digital Scientists UK for Instagram.
Yeah, and you're on... James is personally on LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn as well. Our company profile is on LinkedIn as well, which is growing. We've just 500 odd followers. So
nice. Our
socials, again, ironically, our socials are somewhat underdeveloped, but we've got probably about 40 different folders of different projects we've worked on in the last year and a half waiting to go up on our socials as some sort of plan and some sort of content strategy. So yes, if you follow us, you will be kept up to date of actual projects we've worked on from start to finish, or ones that are ongoing, and you'll see the difference from where they were versus where they are now in 3, 6, 12 months, 18 months.
Perfect. Well, James, thank you for coming on today and sharing your journey and wisdom. So that wraps up another episode, guys. Obviously, the podcast is live on all podcast platforms now, so make sure you subscribe to that for us. It would also be ultra useful as we start releasing more episodes if you can leave us a review of where we can improve, or maybe guests that you would like to see. So make sure you like, subscribe, and leave us a review on all your favourite podcast platforms. If you're on YouTube, put any comments down below of questions that you would like answered, or any information that you need from James, or indeed feedback for the episode. And again, make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. That wraps up this episode. We will see you guys with another guest in a couple of weeks.